Hello, welcome to the Polygon Forest. My name's Chris.
I'm Vin.
Let's do this. So today we are going to be talking about Days Gone 2 Not Quite Gone Yet. Snappy title that I came up with. We're going to be talking about Sony Reverse's course on PS3 and Vita store closure. And if we've got time, we're going to talk about Airlink on Quest 2 is now live. If we have time, we might push that back. We shall see. But first of all, Vin, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm very tired. I'm currently recovering from some lockdown insomnia, but it's okay.
Because you've got your Monster. Okay, product placement there. We're not sponsored, but if Monster wanted to send Vin a case, then please do so.
Please. I would take it. I would genuinely take it.
That's the dream, mate. Being sponsored.
Specifically by Monster, but yeah. Right. How about you, man? How are you going?
I am going. We rehearsed this. Medium rare. Because I'm all sunburnt. I went outside for the first time in about a year yesterday.
I'll do it.
Anyone that was on my Twitter saw that I painted a bench, and this is the consequence of going outside and painting a bench.
This is the saddest thing I've ever heard.
But what it meant is it affected the podcast, really, because that meant that the day after, so like last night, I couldn't play any video games because I was too crispy and I couldn't do it.
Too crispy. I like that. That's it. That's the best excuse for not playing a video game I've ever heard in my life.
So when we talk about what we've been playing, it's like, well, I've not been playing that much. As much as I would have.
Right.
But let's move on to video games. I have been playing more of Horizon Zero Dawn video game, and I've just pretty much completed. Well, I've completed the narrative of the DLC for the game, which is the something Frozen Wilds.
Frozen Wilds. Yep.
Which is great. It was a great little story. Really loved it. It tied into the universe really well, and it tied into the main narrative really well. So now I'm pretty much just ready to tie up the loose ends of the main narrative.
Yeah, the fact that you got this thing for free is just still pretty mind-blowing to me. Well, mostly for free.
Mostly for free, yeah. I think it is 100% properly free now. So I had it on the Sony Game Pass,
right. Yeah,
and it's now it's completely 100% free with the stay-at-home initiative thing that Sony have got going on. So it was stupidly reduced because I feel like an absolute bargain. But now I'm kind of considering an Aloy tattoo to sort of make up the difference. Although I know Sony won't really get the money for that, or Gorilla won't be getting the money for that. But
it's a nice sentiment, though.
But yeah.
If that isn't an endorsement for a video game, I don't know what is.
It's a pretty good endorsement.
I've always wanted to get because the thing is I've never ever got a tattoo in my life, and the main reason for that is because I was moving to Japan straight after uni, and in Japan, well, it was back then as well, but it's getting a little bit better. But tattoos are super frowned upon over there.
Yeah.
To the point you can't even go to a public bathhouse without covering them up and stuff like that, because they're associated with the Yakuza and things like that. So
yeah, it's basically like saying I'm a criminal, isn't it?
Exactly. It's kind of like having it's the equivalent of having a tattoo on your face in England, pretty much. It's
probably worse than that, because we wouldn't ask people to cover that up, would you? I mean, they'd stop you. Sure. You wouldn't employ them, but
right, exactly, yeah. But I used to hear stories about people that would go on work vacations or whatever and go to Korea, and they'd all go to a public bathhouse with all of their colleagues or whatever, and then they would say, "Oh my God, he's got a tattoo." It's Japan and Korea, it's pretty common.
It's Winnie the Pooh on my belly. What are you talking about? It's harmless.
In China, you probably got shot for that. That's a different story. But they'd return home. No one would say anything. They'd return home, and then whoever had the tattoo got fired, sort of thing. They were the sort of stories that would be around, Yeah. So I've never I've always wanted to get the tattoo idea, which I always had, was I wanted to get one little icon on my arm all the way up, all around, for every game of the year that I've ever had, throughout my whole life. if that makes sense.
When you say had, you mean guessed correctly or worked on or what?
No, just like my personal game of the year, like what I enjoyed that year, what I considered like, okay, that year was that game. And it would just be like a small icon or something to be from that game. But I've just never gotten around to it. But yeah.
I've kind of had this theory of doing like a combination of, it wouldn't be the game of the year, because sometimes if you've got a short list that you're not happy with, I wouldn't want it tattooed on me. Or if you've got 2 games that you just absolutely love, I'd probably want 2. But yeah, like games that spoke to me and stood out to me, like having something from there, but in the style of like vintage Americana sort of sailory type stuff. Yeah. So instead of like the Normandy from Mass Effect, instead of having like a sail ship with like rope around it and like waves, have like the similar sort of colorization like with the Normandy from Mass Effect, because it's still a ship. Or like instead of like flowers with sometimes you get the flowers with in a certain Americana style, having like the Mario fire flower. I've been messing around with ideas. Some of it's too on the nose, and it just would just look wouldn't just not my style, because some people have like Mario mushrooms and coins and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those things. Like, if I did get it, I would want it to not stand out too much. Like, I'd want it to be noticeable to the people that knew what it was.
Yeah, like a wink and a nod, like what this is.
People like, oh yeah, like I would get like the little eye from Eco. See, I'm mentioning it. Like, I will every single episode. Get it in. Like the eye from Eco, like I would just have that sort of thing. And like if anyone saw it, like, why have you got a little horn on your arm? Like, never mind, you don't have to worry about it.
Is that Eco in the background?
Is that an Eco? Yeah, maybe. Just a little thing.
Little nod.
Little nod. So people will know what that is. Or maybe they won't. I'm not sure. But yeah, that's my idea for a tattoo. Like I've never done it though, but I've been tempted.
Well, now you're not in a place where it's frowned upon. I guess there is nothing stopping you now.
Yeah.
But I'm the same. I just haven't got around to it. So I'm.
Yeah, I'm getting too old to get a tattoo anymore. Like, is that a thing? Like, I'm not sure.
For me, it's a bit of lockdown crisis. So.
I think we're all just going a bit insane.
Yeah, I'm like, what can I do to drastically change myself? I can put permanent ink on myself.
That'll do it.
And let everyone know that I'm a gamer.
That'll do it.
Yeah. But no, I just really like the character, and she just really spoke to me, and like she's like an ideal, and like I love the tribal thing. And so yeah, coming back to the Americana idea.
Right.
Instead of like a Native American, which is quite a traditional Americana type sailory tattoo where it's like a side profile with a headdress, Aloy has some of her hats look like that, or they look like they're inspired by that. So it'd be like a play on that. So yeah, I think it's like a Native American.
Yeah, I think it is meant to be like an allegory of that sort of stuff, which I love. Like I love it when they do really nice subtle allegories in video games like that, but sometimes it's too on the nose. Like I played Detroit Beyond Human not too long ago, and I absolutely hated that game. I thought it was just way too much on the nose of like just one for one civil rights sort of thing. It was just too close to like and it hurt the message that they were trying to say of like trying to put you in the shoes of the civil rights movement and stuff by like comparing you like humans to robots instead of like blacks versus whites and stuff like that. Right. And I think it just muddied the message. I don't think it did it justice like to what it actually deserved. It could have been done in such a better way. But when it came to Horizon Zero Dawn with like the Native Americanism and just like the different cultures and things like that, it was so well done. Like the world of Horizon Zero Dawn, like the cultures that you feel. Like when you meet the Sun people and stuff, that it's just completely different to like the tribes, and like just having them two things diametrically oppose each other. But in the meantime, like Aloy's got this thing where she's got this piece in her head that's telling her all this sort of stuff. It's just hilariously out of sync, really. And she's basically the player, and she's like, that's not how it is. And they're all like, the All Mother and stuff like this, and they're all like praying.
Yeah, it's like it's just like a computer. Yeah, it's just like a computer.
You're all crazy. But it's like I love that sort of the crazy dance that it does all the way through with that stuff. But such a great game.
The thing I liked about it is that they've still got the tribalism, and they've still got the war, and they talk about genocide and the Red Raids where they capture people and execute them for the sun god and things like that.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that the backstory is because they all came from like underground bunkers, which gave birth to babies and robots raised the babies. Yeah. They're tribal for the location, and they're not tribal based on what race the babies were. Yeah. So you've got a world which has been reborn without racism, but you've still got genocide because of just location. It just so happens where the locations were, where like these birthing stations were, which was really fascinating.
So, yeah, the whole story of Horizon Zero Dawn was really well paced out, where I don't think anyone starting that game could have figured out like what the ending was going to be, sort of thing. I mean, there were certainly clues there all the way through as well, but it's by the time you get to the end and you get the full puzzle. Like, we're not going to like discuss it here in case someone hasn't played it. Mm-hmm. You should absolutely play it if anyone's listening to this and they're on the fence.
Yeah, because it's free now, so there'll be a lot of people. If you're listening soon after this is published, then yeah, it's free. Go play it. I can't recommend it highly enough. No reason not to.
Well,
unless you don't have a PlayStation.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean,
go out, buy a PlayStation.
No, it's on PC. Go play it on PC.
It's on PC. Okay, it's on PC. Fair enough.
If you haven't got a PC or a PlayStation, why the hell are you here? Get off. Like, just go away.
Hey, Xbox fans. Hey, come on now. We're all inclusive on this podcast, Vin. Don't discriminate. I mean, I was an Xbox owner.
True. Very true. But yeah, great game. Just awesome game. Everyone should play it.
But my hands hurt because I'm on a PlayStation. And to the point where it was hurting my knuckles throughout the rest of the next day if I did a big PlayStation. I don't know how PlayStation has done so well for PlayStation 4 console. Don't know how many copies. I don't know how many. Or I've just got subhuman hands.
You're talking about the DualShock 4, right?
DualShock 4 PS4 controller. It's the worst controller I can imagine.
It's a weird. This is like, I always forget about this, but if you're coming from the PS3 to the PS4, like the DualShock 4 is awesome. Like if you made that journey, like from that transition.
Yeah,
but I can imagine.
Yeah,
I can imagine because you had an Xbox One, right?
Yeah.
Going from an Xbox One controller to a DualShock 4, now that's a different tale, and I'm guessing that's the one that you're talking about, which is just like, I can't even imagine actually.
I had a PlayStation 1, and then I went to Xbox One. Well, Xbox, the original Xbox, and where with the original controller, where the black and white buttons were in like the top left-hand corner instead of the two trigger buttons.
The Duke. It's called.
The Duke, which was an amazing bit of ergonomic design, considering that ergonomic design in the video game industry just didn't exist. There was no like gaming chairs that were ergonomically designed. So this was like something you held with your hand that was designed for your hands. It was absolutely revolutionary. And then just got better and better each iteration of that. And then to go to a PlayStation 4 controller, my hands are just like, literally my knuckles would ache for like the whole day afterwards. So I bought myself a Nacon, is it Nacon or Nacon? Asymmetric wireless PC gamepad, but it's got the PS4.
Oh, okay. So you can actually play on the PS4 with it.
And it works wirelessly on the PS4. So it's got a little dongle.
That's cool.
And so it's asymmetric, similar to like the Xbox controller is, where the left joystick is a bit further up, and the right joystick is.
Saying all of this, I know like while the DualShock 4 might be a disappointment or like kind of annoying and horrible for your hands or whatever, like coming from an Xbox controller, the DualSense controller is actually really good. So I have
on the PS5.
Yeah.
So, because you've upgraded then, because you've gone from PS4 to PS5 recently, so
right. And I go back and forth sometimes because I use my DualShock 4 for my NVIDIA Shield, which is a whole different thing. I use that thing for emulation mainly, but when I even go from the DualSense back to the DualShock 4, it's kind of like, what is this thing? Sort of thing. Like it feels bulky and round, and it creaks and things like that. Like the DualSense controller is just a solid piece of tech. Like it doesn't creak, it doesn't move. It's like the haptics are great. It's just a superior controller, I guess. But
how have you found the triggers? Because the triggers have got like feedback, haven't it? It's got the resistance on the triggers.
The haptic feedback is very, very weird, but very awesome. Like it's hard to describe. Like it's one of those things where it's kind of like VR. Like we can talk about it all day, but until someone actually just puts the thing on and tries it, like you can't really explain.
You can't talk about it. You have to experience it.
Right.
So yeah. But okay, that's a good analogy. Then it's like VR.
Yeah, it's very much that way. But the haptics are like once you feel it, like it's kind of hard to go back, but it's not as. I jump between my PS5 and my Series X like a lot, so it's not the end of the world, but it's a big deal basically. I think I'm really excited to see what other games can do with it, because they haven't really utilized it properly yet. Like because PlayStation just hasn't got a lot of games on their system yet.
Yes,
PS5.
Yes.
So
PS5. There's that. What's it called?
Returnal. Yeah, Returnal. It's out on April 30th.
April 30th, and they use the haptic feedback because there's not been many games that have done the haptic feedback, because we're in this stage where we're straddling consoles.
Yeah, we're in between at the moment. Yeah.
So developers, they've not had enough time to really get to use the haptic feedback. And also it's probably easier to make a game across several generations and several different products.
The only game that's really used it so far is Astros's Playroom. That's the only thing. And when you without the haptics on that game, it's a really good platformer in and of itself. Like, it could have been made by Nintendo. Like, quality is that good.
Yeah, I've heard that.
It's really no wonder that's the only studio that Sony didn't kill in Japan, because the game's actually really decent. But the haptics in that game is just it blows your mind. You just I didn't even know you could do this with a video game. But because they kept it so undercover, I guess, they were the only real studio that had access to it. So when the PS5 came out, there was a load of afterthought, haptic stuff. So when you played a Spider-Man Miles Morales, the only thing that they put it in after the fact through a patch was on the web swinging. But you could feel the resistance from the web swing when you're actually going through. But It's very strange, pushing down a button and it's pushing back sort of thing. Or when you're firing a gun and it shakes because it feels like an actual rifle going off, and things like that. It's just, you never quite get used to it, but it is very, very cool.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to see what they do with it.
It's crazy to think there'll be generations growing up. Probably not even this generation. There'll be the kids at the moment that haven't got a PS5, but the people whose first console is a PS5, everything else is going to be alien to them. They're why doesn't this feel weird? Because at the minute as well, the amount of games that are on PlayStation 5 that don't have haptic feedback or don't use it well enough.
Yeah,
I mean, see if it does take off, because the middle button on the PlayStation 4, wasn't hugely utilized, and the tilting capability as well.
Yeah, the access stuff.
Yeah, the access stuff.
This is the only thing we always talk about, the fact that PlayStation need an answer to Xbox Game Pass, but I seriously believe that Xbox also need an answer to haptic feedback on either their new Elite controller that they've probably got in the pipe somewhere, or something. They need to integrate, bring out a new Xbox controller, a new Series X controller, Pro or something.
Yeah.
Just to have haptics in it. It is very cool tech. It's hard to deny that it's very cool. And if you've got both consoles, then you do notice the difference when you jump back and forth. That's the only thing.
So would you go as far to say, if there was a game that was out on both the new Xbox and the PlayStation 5, and price wasn't a factor in this hypothetical, which is very unrealistic, so the only thing is the two different consoles, would it nudge to PlayStation because of the controller if it had haptic feedback?
Maybe. I'm not sure. It's one of those quality of life things. It's very cool, and it feels great when you get it, but would I choose one system over the other about it? I'm not too sure. Because again, price is a factor when it comes to the PlayStation, because everything is a bit more expensive on the PlayStation 5 now. They've sort of put in that poll and said, everything's going to be $70 now. And it's kind of that's $10 more than everything that's on Xbox, even if it is on Xbox, because everything that Xbox is doing first party is just coming out on Game Pass day one. It's stuff it's so muddy now.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if DualSense alone would sort of swing me. But yeah, possibly. It really depends on the game, I guess.
Yeah, I guess when the big Xbox exclusive stuff comes out later in the generation, that'd be interesting to see.
Them fights.
Yeah, what happens with Game Pass with that and stuff. But as we're talking about Sony, and you mentioned the PS Vita store, we can probably talk about that next, as it makes more sense.
Yeah, go for it.
Sony reverses course on PS3 and Vita store closure. Sony announced, you've written here today, Vin, so that's...
Not today anymore. It was about a week ago.
Sony announced it will no longer shut down the PlayStation store for PS3 and PS Vita users. recently we notified players that PlayStation Store for PS3 and PS Vita devices was planned to end this summer, wrote Sony's interactive president and CEO, Jim Ryan, on the PlayStation blog. Upon further reflection, we'll come back to that. However, it is clear that we made the wrong decision here. So today I'm happy to say that we will be keeping the PlayStation Store operational for PS3 and PS Vita devices. PSP commerce functionality will retire on July 2nd, 2021 as planned. Wow, reading's hard.
They're just killing the PSP basically, but they're keeping the Vita and they're keeping the PS3, which is fine because you can actually play. I think you can play PSP games on the Vita. So if they keep the Vita store open, then you can still buy PSP games. So it still exists in some capacity.
I think the number of PSP consumers at this stage, I mean, you haven't been able to buy it from a shop in a while. So it's going to be secondhand, and it's going to be
this is the difference. Like, I don't think the PlayStation Portable was too soon. Like, they could have, if they announced that like a couple of months ago, like saying, oh yeah, we're going to sunset the PSP out, everyone would be like, yeah, it's time.
It wouldn't make any headlines, would it?
No, like no one would care, because the PSP came out like before the PS3, I think. Yeah, it was a while ago, so it was kind of like, yeah, that makes total sense to sunset out. But the fact that the Vita is backwards compatible in that respect, like it's not the end of the world.
What I don't like about this statement is that they say upon further reflection. It's like, it's not upon further reflection in the slightest. It's a reversal of what you wanted to do because of the backlash from the media and fans. Just say that, because then the out of the box statement is, we've heard you, we've heard what your values are, and we're making this decision based on what you said. That's well, I know it's not a paraphrase, but there's a paraphrase there somewhere that they could have taken out of the bag to say, like, we heard you. That's the phrase I was looking for. Yeah, we heard you. We'll be reversing this decision.
Yeah, it was interesting to see something like saying we weren't expecting people to be like I'm paraphrasing, but like they weren't expecting people to be so passionate about it. Basically, it's like we hear the passion or whatever it was, and I was like, really? Like you didn't
ask like 3 people in the room.
Right, you didn't focus test this?
Or they did, crazy. And they just didn't care enough. It's very odd. Like, they're either out of touch or they're lying and they just wanted to do something. Or the third option is they are clearing the path and making way for something new.
Yeah, I mean, it's because we're in the dark about this. This is the problem. Like, if they were a bit more open about it, or if we had all the facts, which we don't at the moment, like if they are setting up something in the background, because if they are like the perfect answer to Game Pass would have something to do with backwards compatibility, in my opinion. Like, for a PlayStation platform anyway, you've got a whole PS1, PS2, and PS3. You could definitely port Vita games to the console as well, because they don't do anything fundamentally weird apart from like the touchpad, which is at the back, which you could totally convert to the touchpad on the DualSense. So there's no reason why they couldn't convert all of this sort of stuff to the PlayStation 5 in some capacity. If they did have that, then yeah, kill the old stores, because you've got something else coming in the pike. But if you haven't, then we need to know about that sort of thing. And I think, because if there is something coming in the pipe, then they really should have, done this the other way around. And announced the new thing and then be like, okay, and we're going to sunset the old stuff, because then that's hidden. But it's like, basically this whole situation just tells me that they haven't got anything in the pipe for that whatsoever, because they wouldn't have, like, unless they're just that stupid, which I don't think they are. There's a lot of very intelligent people at Sony. I would like to hope that they, are just sunsetting this thing out, and yeah, it's very odd. Like, the whole thing was bizarre. But yeah, you're right. Like, this whole the PR BS that they gave with it was kind of it was a bit on the nose. So like, really, like, come on. We know like Twitter like got a hashtag going and everyone was annoyed and angry, rightfully so to some extent.
Yeah.
And you reversed, like, it's like you said, if they just admitted that and sort of like, yep, we hear you. Like, it's a good point. Like, we realize that this is probably a bit too soon. We thought we were a bit further down the line than this, but we understand, and we're gonna keep it alive just for you guys.
Yeah. If the message was we underestimated how much you guys loved this, it's a positive message.
Absolutely.
And it was, I think it was just a bit too corporate.
Right.
For me, I didn't like.
But
that.
I think that's the way that Sony's going now. I think they're back on top and they know it, and they're trying to reverse back to being that corporate sort of figure, which I think this is why Jim Ryan has gotten a lot of backlash. I don't think it's really anything to do with his decisions, because anyone else would have made these sort of decisions, but his sort of his approach to it and how he's like not communicating with gamers, and it's just him. He's trying to be the CEO and the face of the company at the same time, which isn't really working at this point in time. Like, who knows? Like at E3, he might come out and give like his whole sort of experience. But I think, yeah, like there's been a few journalists mentioning this, but like Jim Ryan really doesn't have a message yet. Like he hasn't got a voice like with the community. He's just like cardboard cutout of CEO at the moment, and this sort of reinforces that. This whole like the way that this really cardboard cutout sort of statement was put out. It's kind of like at least do a video or something, you know. Like it could have been. He could have made this so personal. It's
a good opportunity to you know, build some bridges up and put a stamp on a personality and get a bit of a rapport going with gamers. Well, I mean, they're winning financially.
I mean, that's the thing, right? I mean, like people are voting with their wallets and they don't care. Like, I think like as much as I am passionate about this sort of stuff and like talking about how CEOs should like deliver their message and they should come out on these videos and be like, oh, my favorite PS3 game was this. And you're right, we should keep these games alive. Like that, while I think that's important, obviously there's a lot of other people out there that don't. Like the PS5 is still sold out. They're selling gangbusters. So who the hell am I to say anything?
So it's working. So like, like faceless corporate machine is what makes money, it seems, in this economy.
Yeah, and, well, and the PlayStation stands will come out and defend them until the end of the world anyway. So it's a very weird time, but we'll see.
We shall see what happens. I mean, this E3 season is going to be might change 100%. We might go with 360 on this or 180.
I see what you did there. 360. No, that was a bad joke. Ignore me. Like I'm off my rocker. The only thing I will say about this whole PlayStation thing reversal is we should give credit where credit is due. Like at the end of the day, they did reverse on this sort of stuff, and I think it's a good thing. I think it's awesome because now my PSP my PS Vita isn't going to die, and I love playing games on that thing. Like playing through Persona 4 was like one of the greatest things that I ever had on that system, and everyone that's got a Vita has played Persona 4 Golden, and everyone knows what I'm talking about. So yeah, it's nice that all this stuff is staying alive, and I can still play PS1 games on my Vita or my PS3, and I can just buy them still. So that's still very cool.
Yeah, I think it's important as well. Yeah. We could go now to Days Gone to Not Quite Gone Yet? Question mark.
Indeed. Yeah. Speaking of Sony. Yeah.
So yes, as the petition to make Days Gone 2 surpasses 75,000, I think my last check we're approaching 80,000. We ask, at what point will Sony sit up and listen? So it was kind of like the same question, but just in a different part of Sony world. So specifically with this video game studio. So is that a big number for you? You know, when we think about that in terms of copies that they could sell, that's quite a lot. And that's just people that are willing to sign the petition. I mean, I would sign it, but I haven't got around to it yet. Probably, but I'm in two minds. Does it? I don't know if it works. I don't know if it's going to make a difference. Is it going to be a waste of time?
Yeah, I mean, have you played the first game?
No.
Right.
I've only had a PlayStation for,
right, exactly.
months,
like you're still catching up. So
yeah.
I mean, the only thing I would say, if there's PlayStation fans out there, there's Days Gone fans out there, sorry, and they want a Days Gone 2, absolutely. Like, go and sign the petition. Do I think it matters? Absolutely not. I don't think Sony cares.
But they reverse their decision on the PS Store thing.
There's a difference. There's a difference between. Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between keeping some servers alive for these stores and funding a $200 million project over a 6-year period.
That's a very good point, actually. Yeah,
it's a lot of money.
There's a difference between not flipping a switch and building a video game from scratch. Well,
right, it's the equivalent of me saying, "Oh, I should it's stopping Sony turning off a light switch, save some electricity, or they're building a house extension." That's basically what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money. In my opinion, the petition has already been done. and the petition was the game sales. The game didn't sell enough. Like it hit projections and it hit targets, but it didn't blow through them to the point that Sony were like, oh crap, we should make a sequel for this thing.
Yeah.
So the voters, the petition votes have already been counted, in my opinion, and that is the sales. So I'm not really sure. Like and again, like I get the passion, and I understand that people like want to like vent their frustration out into something, and this is them saying, "Look, we want this thing," but money speaks louder a lot of the time. But at the same time, like I always say, vote with your wallet, which you should absolutely without fail in any occasion. But it's like you said, like sometimes shouting about stuff helps too.
Yeah.
And even in the perfect scenario with this thing, this is the main problem which I have with this whole petition thing is that development wise, even if Sony were like, all right, we hear you, we're gonna fund Days Gone 2. Like, okay, who's gonna make it? It's like, okay, Ben's gonna make it. Well, Ben have already got another project they're working on.
So got another job, yeah.
Right. So if they're already working on a new project, there's that problem. And then there's the second problem of the fact that there was a lot of developers that were in leadership working on Days Gone 1 that are now not there. And I'm talking about the game director. I'm talking about the creative director. I'm talking about the lead writers. They're gone. Like they're not there anymore. They're not at Ben's studio. And God knows how many other developers like just pulled the plug and quit after Days Gone 2 was pulled.
Yeah.
So there's all this sort of stuff, which I know it's like nitty gritty, stupid politics stuff in the background, and it doesn't sound great, like compared to, let's make a difference and sign a petition. Like I get that sort of passion from people, but I think it's too late, honestly. And it's not like gamers were too late to do it or act because they didn't have all the information. We only just found out that Days Gone 2 was, I almost said Gazed On. Gazed On.
Gazed On. That's a great game.
Someone would enjoy that game. If Days Gone 2, like if we'd known about this a year ago, then I think like we could have made a difference. But I think at this point it's too gone. It's too far gone. Like it's too late, basically.
Too done.
It's too done.
But it's not been. Has it even been officially announced that it wasn't just leaked reports? So from Sony's point of view, in terms of like what's the truth. Yeah. Isn't this all just still speculation? So an official announcement hasn't happened. I mean, we know it is because people have moved on and people are doing other jobs that have been announced. But yeah, so I guess they can't really.
Yeah, I mean, technically they could come out and say, well, we didn't say there wasn't going to be.
We didn't say that they failed the pitch, yeah.
Right. I mean,
we wanted to do this new thing.
I've heard this a lot as well, like people sort of pushing back against the idea like, oh, maybe their Days Gone 2 pitch was just really bad and Sony just didn't want to touch it, sort of thing. The only thing I would say to that is that if the game sold well enough, they would tell them, go back and repitch this.
Yeah.
And go back and repitch this. Do it over and over and over again until we hit something where we can put Days Gone 2 sticker on this. Because we need a sequel because it sold X, Y, and Z and people want it and all that sort of stuff. Like the pitching process is not that sort of linear and it's very organic in that respect. Like things will go back and forth and they will figure out these things. But the fact that just didn't even get past the gate tells me that Sony just didn't really want this game in any respect.
I think that, yes, there's a lot of momentum that's now been lost with it. But what I think the petition does say to Sony that they didn't have the information before is to the extent at which it isn't the way that the fans want Sony to behave.
I agree. Yeah.
And so because of that aspect that now Sony know fans don't want people that Sony to behave in that way, similar to the PS Vita store. I can see it happening further down the road. I can see it happening, like I can see it being delayed by 2 or 3 years when there's a studio that's at a loose end and they're looking for that would have made a remake of something else that was successful, and then being forced to go, well, you can either do a remake of something that was already successful or you can make Days Gone 2. If I was a studio and I was given that choice by Sony, I'd want to make Days Gone 2. I'd want to make a sequel as opposed to a remake. I would imagine that most creative directors would prefer a sequel to a remake.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I just don't know. it depends how like this sort of progresses with time as well, because these sort of games like turn into cult classics as well.
Yeah.
So like now that it's been like the nail is in it sort of thing, there'll be a lot of gamers that play this game like, oh man, this is a shame that I'll never get a sequel. Because I think Sony,
let's see what the fuss is about. This is a lot of hype. It's getting a lot of press. It's getting a lot of media.
Right, because they always say like all news is good news, right? Yeah. So even if it's bad news, like because I think the missed shot which Sony have done here, in my opinion, is the fact that they judge this game based on its first 6 months of sales, which you should, because that's where most of the sales are. But they relied way too heavily on the state of the game and how it was received at the time of launch. And I think a lot of reviews and outlets need to sort of grapple with this fact that games are a fluid thing now. They're not this static product that just comes out and that's it. We're not going to touch it anymore. I know gamers aren't happy with that aspect of it, but at the end of the day, like we get feedback from gamers all the time. I'm like, oh, okay, we can actually change that and do an update and patch it. Days Gone, when that came out, it was a 7 out of 10 game. Absolutely, it was. After 2 months of that game being worked on, and I'm not talking about like quality of life, like they're fixing bugs or whatever. Like they were just adding features and they were adding gameplay modes and they were adding all this stuff. After 6 months of that game, it was a 9 out of 10. You know, like it just changed. Yeah. And Sony have never really grappled with that fact because a lot of their games come out and they're just done. And I think Days Gone was their sort of wake up call for that. I mean, the only other game that's really done it recently is Ghost of Tsushima. But the difference is with Ghost of Tsushima, it came out as a 9 already.
Yeah, so it came out to a critical acclaim, I would say, for sure, straight out the gate.
But if Days Gone was re-reviewed now, I absolutely believe it would be an 8 or a 9. Like it would not be sat at 71 on Metacritic like it is right now. It just wouldn't be, because games get re-reviewed sometimes. Like we had that at Ubisoft recently with Rainbow Six Siege. When that game came out, it was a 7 out of 10. A few outlets re-reviewed it last year and they were giving it 10s. Yeah, like this stuff happens all the time. The games are fluid, and we need to accept this now.
Is Zero is the new character in Rainbow Six? Is that Rainbow Six?
I can't keep up with them. There's so many of them. But yeah, there is a new one.
Yeah, that looks pretty cool. I've looked at that. So yes, I agree. It's a crappy situation, but off the back of all this, Days Gone is now on my radar, whereas it wouldn't have been before.
There is that.
And it's definitely a contender to be in my back catalogue. But most back catalogue things, it to be there on the list, it takes a lot, and it depends what comes out in the future as to whether or not I'll say whether or not I play it.
Yeah, I mean, saying all of this though, when it comes to Days Gone, I understand that Sony is in a hard place because their main sort of gangbuster franchise sales-wise over the past sort of few years has been The Last of Us, right? And they're about to like step into this realm of like the HBO series and the remake of the first game and all this sort of stuff. And they've got like the multiplayer factions game that's probably going to be a separate thing altogether, and whatever DLC or whatever like separate like Lost Legacy sort of thing that they come out with for The Last of Us. So there's a lot of content coming out for The Last of Us, which is thematically very close to Days Gone. And you're basically creating competition with yourself at that point. Like, why would you do that? So I get like the thematic. So like if you're gonna like, if you have to kill off one of your kids, like you're probably going to kill off Days Gone, I guess. Like in terms of sales and what fans are calling out for, as much as I disagree with it, there's a lot of people out there that just really hate zombie games. You know, like they're just sick of them. They're sick of killing zombies, and I get it. Like, and I totally understand it. So it's probably a combination of stuff. It's just how they handled this is very poor. That's the only thing. And I think that's the ongoing theme this year, unfortunately, with Sony, is just this whole bad handling of stuff, which I hope
the theme of this podcast. It's like every episode we hate on Sony, and we really don't hate Sony.
Weird. I mean, they're one of my favorite companies. Like last gen, I was all in on Sony. Like everything that I bought was Sony. Like singing their praises every 5 minutes. They were on cloud nine, in my opinion. But
I was hitting myself every time there'd be an exclusive come out on PlayStation. I would spend a lot of time thinking to myself, did I choose the wrong console? I wish I have that game. I really want to play it. So yeah, I'm totally I like all games. I like all consoles, and I want there to be competition. So I want there to be a world where I'm always looking at the other console and going, "Oh, I wish I had that." I want
that's the best way to look at it, though. I mean, if you I want all companies to be doing well, and it annoys me when companies do poorly, not because I constantly see this thing on Twitter where people are just like, "Oh, PlayStation's better than Xbox," but I get annoyed when someone does bad because it basically removes competition from the people that are on top. Like you see threads like, "Oh, I wish like Xbox would just evolve and become a publisher, so then they bring all our games to PlayStation or vice versa." I'm like, "Are you insane?" Like there'd be no Game Pass, there'd be no like games with gold, there'd be none of this stuff. Like it'd just be like, "Oh, we're selling games at $80 a pop now because like no one is challenging us. Like why would we do anything different?" So like I mean we like when I bitch about Sony screwing up their messaging over the past 6 months, which I'm sure they're going to fix at E3. I'm sure they're going to come out and fix all of this in whatever way, through announcements, or like they'll fix their messaging, or they'll announce something that is so incredibly consumer friendly that we'll forget about all of this, hopefully.
Well, they just have to drop some like Horizon Forbidden West gameplay, and I'll just be like, "I love Sony so much."
Yeah, but it comes from a place of love, you know. Like I want them to do well. I want them to pick up their fucking bootstraps and fix this stuff so we can get some good games out of the door, and we can just get back to like enjoying video games again. But it's
parents where we know that the kids can do better, and we're just disappointed that
we're just disappointed.
Yeah, we're not angry. We're just disappointed that they're not fulfilling their potential, and they could do better, and they can make better decisions.
That is fair.
Yeah. And we keep telling them, but will they listen? No.
We're even doing petitions now, god damn it.
Yeah, I'm doing a petition to my own child.
It certainly feels that way. But yeah, I think I'm sure like in July we'll be laughing back at this sort of stuff. Like, do you remember the PSP stuff and the crazy Days Gone 2 stuff? Like, I'm sure this will all be behind us. I hope it'll be behind us. But we'll see.
Watch this space.
Watch this space.
People that are watching this in the future are going, "This is irrelevant content. Click next. Next video, please."
Hopefully that's true.
So what's next on the agenda? How are we doing for time?
Yeah, we're at 40 minutes. So
40 minutes. So yeah, we can do Airlink. I even forgot to actually announce that we got Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake reportedly coming from Port Studio.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, how do you feel about this whole like slew of remakes that are coming out? Are you good with it, or are you like one of these people like they should be making new content, leave these old games in the past?
I can understand both arguments. There is some insight that I'm excited about for Mass Effect coming out. The
right.
I keep forgetting what they call it. Mass Effect
Legendary
Edition. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Because you've not played any Mass Effect, so you're coming in hot.
Hell yeah.
So let me just give you this hypothetical. So there's this legendary, trio of games you've heard a lot about. You've probably seen some trailers. You might have seen some gameplay. You know that there's a buzz about it. You know there's some proper fanboys, and
say that again,
including myself. And I'm really excited for it. The first Mass Effect didn't have any sort of cover-based shooting.
Yeah.
It was a role-player game, and it had shooting elements, but you can't crouch or like hide behind cover. For an actiony, shootery, sci-fi game, at best, it's clunky. So if you were going to go play that now, it just isn't to a level that you're used to with like an action RPG game. So
right,
and the fact that they're changing, like fixing it, it's not fixing it because it wasn't broken when it came out. Because of its time, it was a thing and it was fine. No one ever said, "I can't possibly play this because it isn't cover-based shooting." Gears of War exists, therefore every RPG that has any gun in it should have cover.
Right.
That wasn't in the news. But we're now in a position where, because the trilogy is out and Mass Effect 2 was such a sensation, and Mass Effect 3 was it was well received and it got some criticism, but in terms of what made it Mass Effect, it nailed it again. So with the Legendary Edition coming out, they're changing bits of 1 to just bring it in line with what everyone loved about the Mass Effect trilogy.
Yeah. So
they're adding in those elements, and they're changing elements, bringing in the femshep, which is like the iconic female version of Commander Shepard from the second game, but they're making that being able to playable in the first game, which is just how a character looks, which isn't too difficult.
Well, it's continuity, isn't it? Like,
so
I think that's important.
Yeah, and they're like making all of the monetization all similar and unlocks and things like that, and the UV and UI and stuff. Not UV. UI, bringing that all in line so it's kind of like it feels like it's one experience. And that's all good. You can't argue against that. The only thing you can say is, it's not how I remember it. I want all the bugs.
Right. I mean, there are absolutely people like that. I mean, it always cracks me up when people like complain. Like, you get the Star Wars fans that don't like the VFX updates, but like we've got an equivalent for like the video games industry now, which is really bizarre to me. Like, we're doing this weird sort of Lucasfilm thing. But yeah, I mean, like straight out of the bat, like Mass Effect is a great example because the first game was the reason why I never got into the trilogy. Like, I tried to play that game like 3 times, I think. Got to the Citadel 3 times in a row, and it was like, God, the cover system in this game is awful.
Right.
Like, it just, like, the combat just does not feel good. Like, it just doesn't. Like, as someone that like constantly hears about all this, like how amazing Mass Effect is and like how great the story is and all that sort of stuff, I'm just like, I cannot get past the first game. And it just gets worse over time as well, because like, it not only was it not fantastic at the time, it only becomes more and more dated. So the fact that they're updating the combat so it's like coherent and fluid and it's as good as like the third and the second game, which everyone does talk about in such high regard, it's sort of like, yeah, this is the reason why I want to play the game. So I'm all in with all these changes. I think it's great. And a similar thing happens with if you ever play the Witcher games, same thing. Like, The Witcher 1 is a fucking horrible game. Like,
it's with 3, so
it's terrible. Yeah, I mean, Witcher 1 is just, it's near impossible to play. Like, it's almost like, it's not even an action RPG. It's like a rhythm game almost, because you have to click like as the bar fills up and you have to hit it at the right moment and stuff.
Okay, like a refill on Gears of War.
Yeah,
kind of. Like an ammo.
Right, thing. It's kind of like that, yeah.
Right.
And like the whole game is like that. And like, while there's like nuggets of the story in there, which are really great, but the actual gameplay is just, God, it's boring. Oh, it's awful. Like, it's a terrible game for it. Like, if you were to play it in 2021, like at the time it was amazing, but now it's not whatsoever. If there was ever a candidate for a game that needs to be remade in the same sort of like Witcher 2, Witcher 3 engine, it would be The Witcher 1. And it's things like that. Like, I think like this is the perfect formula of when you're like remaking and remastering games in sort of like a trilogy like this, where the first game isn't quite up to scratch, but the second game really found its foot, and then the third game is where they really polish stuff off, just to make that whole experience coherent. I think that's a great service to the industry, and I think Mass Effect and The Witcher would be a good candidate as well. I think it's great. I love it when they do this stuff.
I totally agree with that. I think it's as much to do with the state of the trilogy as a whole, the differences between the trilogy and the timing. Like, is it right? All those factors go into a remake. It to me as to whether or not I'd buy it. Interestingly, with the Knights of the Old Republic remake, they're apparently changing it from a role based RPG. So you take turns in combat, and it's more of like an actiony RPG.
Oh, okay. So instead of
fundamental, instead of turn-based. So that's like quite a fundamental change. So I can imagine that would piss a lot of people off.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of diehards that don't like that. You know, it's kind of like in fact, there's actually a one-to-one example of this, which is the Final Fantasy VII remake. It went from a turn-based to an action RPG, and I certainly wasn't a massive fan of the remake. I thought it was done well enough. I think it was fine, but I think they're going to milk that project until the end of time. And it's never, like, we're never going to see the end of Final Fantasy VII remake. I don't think. But there's got to be some discussion and controversy around a game, especially like Knights of the Old Republic, a game which I have not played, but I know has a very vehement, like really passionate fan base that are just gonna like pick apart this stuff. In every single, like every pixel that's out of place, they're just gonna be like, why did you do this? Because it's rare to come across like decent Star Wars games. Like, no offense to the IP, but like the games aren't always stellar. But when a good one comes along, people hold it like in high regard. So
I'm looking forward to it. I've not played it, and I tried to play it. It's the only game where I like tried to get it working on whatever. I think it was a laptop. Yeah, I had a uni laptop and I tried to get it working, and it just wouldn't work. The uni laptop just wasn't good enough. It was only like 200 quid or whatever laptop, and it just didn't work. And so I never played it, but there's been a buzz around it that I've been aware of. I think I've watched all the cinematics, I think, on YouTube. Which are some of the great. They still stand up today. The cinematics for that game.
Yeah, I mean, it's like an old. I think it came out on the PS2 and the original Xbox, so you can play it on the Series X and the Xbox One, I think.
Right.
But it's so outdated now.
It's too late. It's like what you're saying. Like, it's too late for me to play it. It's too late because it's just not like there's shinier things that are more accessible and relatively cheap, and the hype and the buzz of new things is still there. We're humans, which means we like the new shiny thing.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's true.
And you have to fight against that to play like the old classic stuff, which might be a bit out of date.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to like the retro stuff or the old classic stuff, it has to have some place in nostalgia in the back of your head. Otherwise, it just doesn't carry anymore. Like you couldn't just I'm sure, like there's obviously people that would disagree with this, but the average gamer isn't going to pick up like a random new PS2 game. I'm like, I've never heard of this game, and then like put it in and enjoy it like the same as they would like a PS5 game. They're just not. Like that's the reality of it, and I understand that. But yeah, it's a really fascinating time now that we're going through this wave of looking at older games and some not so old. It's a remake, but because I think it's the prime time.
But The Last of Us, not the right time for a remake.
I think it's too soon. Yeah, everyone's going to buy it anyway, so it doesn't really matter what I say. And there's going to be a whole flood of people coming in from the HBO series that have never touched the original game. So
that's a good point. Yeah, it'll be accessible to a lot of people. Yeah, I can't think what would make me want to buy it again because I'm quite rare in that I'm the kind of guy who's like, as soon as I finish the game, it's like never pick up again. Like when I've done with the game, it's gone. It's never been picked up. So I've never actually picked up a video game that I've already played and played it again, with the exception of maybe like Tetris and Pokemon probably, and a few handheld games, but that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine what they could show. Like, because if they announce that game at E3, which they're probably going to now that the cat's out of the bag, they're probably going to show something. If they show that game, like, I can't actually think of what would get me excited about it. Like, I just can't. Like, they could show an engine, like, yeah, it looks pretty, but I've got no reason to play that yet. I platinumed the game like a year ago.
I'd be more excited to see a side-by-side comparison rather than actually thinking about playing the game again.
Yeah, I mean, they'll come naturally anyway from YouTubers or whatever, or Digital Foundry will probably pick that stuff apart until the end of time.
Yeah, me included. I mean, but also because The Last of Us game is probably one of the only games where that's more embedded in my brain. Like those moments are like properly there, like they haven't gone away. Whereas something like Mass Effect, because there's so much lore, that I'm excited to jump back in and like re-familiarize myself with it. But with The Last of Us, it was such a well-crafted key moment storyline that I like in my head, the whole story arc is already there. The key moments are already there. It would only be like the filler that I'd be forgotten and coming back to.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, the only weird thing about The Last of Us remake is just the whole. Not only is the original game like kind of still fresh in our memories, you've got the original, you got the remake, and then you're gonna have this TV show in the middle. So there's going to be like a three-way comparison of the same thing, really, which is going to be odd.
Never really had that.
Yeah,
in any media.
Well, we're probably going to have that for The Witcher, I guess, because
of course.
Because I think The Witcher 3 is getting a remaster this year as well. So
if they fix the bugs, yeah.
I mean, that game was out 5 years, and I played it on the PS4, and it was still a hot mess. Like
I still had game-breaking bugs. Yeah,
just an awful bag of hot mess. That was the main reason why I didn't touch Cyberpunk. Like every single piece of media which I saw about Cyberpunk, I was like, "Yeah, nope, this is all bullshit. I'm not touching this game."
Yeah.
But after I played The Witcher 3, like, nope, I'm good. Like, I'm gonna wait for the reviews, and then the reviews came out, and I was like, "Yep." But there was 13.3 million people that completely ignored that and blew right through it and bought the game anyway because
And wasn't it only like 33,000 refunds? I think I read 33,000 refunds, I think, which is
1%.
Yeah, which is a tiny, 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 tiny fraction. So that's not good news for the industry, I think, because really the execs are going to be rubbing their hands to go, oh, we can actually, this is a new milestone for what sort of hot mess we can actually start making money from.
Yeah, you're basically telling them like, I will buy
these games before they're done by a huge margin. Because to me, it's still not done from what I've seen.
No, it absolutely is not. And you know that because they, at this point in their timeline, they were supposed to have the Series X version out, and they haven't even. They've just put that on hold indefinitely. They're not even working on that, as far as I know. But yeah, I mean, this whole conversation, like coming back around to Returnal as well. I read yesterday that Returnal is now sold out on Amazon UK, which is like, do you people never learn your lesson? Do you know what I mean?
There's not even any reviews out yet. There's still a review embargo.
I pray to God it is a 10 out of 10 game that is polished to high heaven and everyone loves it and enjoys it. I would love to be wrong. But if this game comes out and it's a 7 out of 10, we're just going to go through this whole cycle over and over again. And I am becoming less and less sympathetic by the day for gamers at this point. Like, it's hard to, like you're literally just telling these companies, like, yeah, put any crap out, I'll buy it.
Yeah, it's going to start affecting the actual overall quality of games.
Yeah.
And I think, well, we've got examples where the potential, I think everyone can see what the potential of Cyberpunk could have been. And it was the marketing. Yeah.
And maybe they'll get to that one day. I mean, No Man's Sky certainly proved people wrong on that. And
that's a good point. So there's hope.
Yeah,
there's examples of it working and going well, and there's examples where at the moment it's yet to be proved.
It's all about the resilience of the developer as well. I mean, if the developer's like, well, we got a lot of backlash on that, let's just like kill this thing, put it to bed, and we can move on and start fresh. But if they're resilient, like the No Man's Sky Hello Games, like when they were working on that, and they were just like, all right, we will deliver this promise one day, we'll get there, we promise. And they certainly did. They got there. So like there is always hope.
It's killing hype though for me. Like, I'm getting less and less excited. That's why I got really excited about Mass Effect, because it's like, I know
that's a good game.
All they need to do for me is just polish up the textures a bit, and I'll be like happy to revisit it because I know it's good, and it's been so long that I can jump back into the lore and remind myself of the good bits.
Yeah.
So bit of a bleak way to move on. Do you want to do the Airlink on Quest 2 stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be a pretty short conversation. So
okay.
Yeah.
We can move on to that. So Airlink Quest 2.
Indeed. Yeah.
Downloaded it, but I've not tried it out yet. Have you tried it?
Yep, I tried it out the other day, and it is as good as Virtual Desktop, which is pretty much all people need to know. If people missed our last episode, basically Oculus Quest 2, which is the Facebook VR headset, can now connect to a PC, like a VR-ready PC, basically over your Wi-Fi connection, which is very, very cool. So you can play Steam games, any of the main VR sort of titles like Half-Life Alyx, Boneworks, things of this nature. You can basically play them wirelessly through your Oculus Quest. And if you've got enough space to do it, can't recommend it enough. It's amazing. And yeah, it's a very cool piece of technology that's finally come out, and I've been playing around with it and I love it. So everyone else should love it too.
And for a 300 quid headset, a 300 quid piece of hardware, that's impressive.
It's hard to argue with. Yeah, it's hard to argue.
To your PC and play Steam games.
Yeah, it kind of makes me wonder, like, how do you even compete with that? Because people will take a hit in a little bit of a resolution if they can save half of the money, you know, like, because like a Vive, like a HTC Vive, is like $1,000. It's like, how do you justify that when I can play something wirelessly for 300? Like, it's just, you can't, like, where's the competition here?
And with updates of, with promises of 120 hertz games or updates for existing games coming on the horizon, it's just like,
and that's before we even talk about anything to do with like an Oculus Quest 3, like within the next couple of years, which is definitely in the pipe. Facebook have already spoken about the fact that they're working on like the next 2 headsets.
Yeah. It's not going to be this year though, so we don't. Yeah, so no, people that are thinking about buying a Quest 2,
they should absolutely jump in. Yeah.
The Quest 2 is still going to be the primary for at least this next year, so you've still got some time for it to be totally supported and it be the focus of everyone's updates. Like, you know, I would imagine that there's still a lot of crossover as well between the next couple of generations of headset.
I would hope so.
But yeah, I'm really excited to try it out.
The best thing about Airlink, though, I would say, is the fact that people can play unrestricted without the wires, which is good for people like you that want to do some working out. That's
an interesting segue. It's interesting you should say that, Vin, because I have been on a quest, as it were, to find...
I see what you did there.
Find a fitness game. And it's not the first time I've tried this, so it's almost my second quest. On
the Quest 2.
On the Quest 2, to find a piece of software that will help me shed the Corona kilos. And so I posted a very sweaty picture on Twitter of me trying out several games. I tried out...
Was that before or after you tried it? It's the real question.
Yeah, well, I waited until I cooled down before I took the picture, so it's not a true representation of my state. I tried Creed Rise to Glory, so it was a boxing game. That was a demo. That was pretty fun. I tried Beat Saber demo. It was pretty fun. I tried Fit XR, previously known as Box VR, and Power Beats VR, which was actually on Steam. So back in the old days, I tried Power Beats VR through Virtual Desktop.
Okay, right.
And it worked really well, but it wasn't for me in the end. The winner was Fit XR, which was found just on the Oculus store.
What separates us apart? Like, why is it better than the rest?
For me, it's better because with Beat Saber, you can cheat. And you can just keep your wrists close to you and you can just focus on using your wrists. And it's not...
That's fair. So you can just do this instead of this.
Yeah. And it's not tracking it's not tracking an estimate of calories burnt. It's not meant to be a fit game. So my criteria was it needed to be fun, but it needed me to get me in shape. So it was like an alternative to going to the gym because I can't be dealing with getting in a car and driving anywhere now.
Yeah, especially during Corona.
Especially during Corona. The gyms have only just opened and they're flooded apparently. And I'm just like, ugh, can't be dealing with that.
Yeah, no.
So I wanted an unboxing video game where the emphasis is on fun in boxing is fine, but I didn't feel myself benefiting from the time put in. So it was enjoyable to play the Creed Rise to Glory demo, but it wasn't getting me as fit as I thought the potential could have for the headset. And Power Beats VR is very similar to Fit XR, although the added faff at the time of going into Virtual Desktop was a factor. But more importantly, I've got like 3.5 meters width space in my living room.
That's not bad. Like, it's probably a lot more than most people have got.
It's not bad. And even with that, and I had the area mapped out really well, and I remapped it out to make sure it wasn't a glitch or anything. But Power Beats VR is very wide. It's a very wide video game for a headset, so you need a lot of width.
That's what you mean. Yeah.
So I was hitting things that are off to the side, and it was bringing up the little crosshairs where it tells you you're nearly at the boundary.
Like the Guardian wall.
The Guardian wall, that's it. Yeah. And that was really annoying. That took me out of the experience, and it was affecting how fast and things I was moving. And I wasn't as confident I wasn't going to smack my knuckles off the corner of a wall you can see behind me. So that wasn't... So therefore, Fit XR won because it's a boxing game. So for me as a man, that's more...
Gets your testosterone out and
stuff.
Yeah,
it gets me. Yeah, it's teaching me how to punch things, which I can get on with.
It's always useful.
Yeah, there are dancing like classes, so you can fit the more dancey ones. It's still punching, so it's punching forwards or uppercut or like a cross punch or like a block or a duck. Which so that's all you need. That's all you can do. But it's the combinations, it's the timing, it's the music, it's the different workout lengths, the difficulty, and it tracks all your. It's got an estimate of how many calories you've burnt based on your height and weight.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much all you need, though, I guess. Like if you're because you're just basically trying to get your heart rate going up. And like you said, I think like the most important thing to you, like you mentioned, was the fact like if the music isn't good, then it's just not gonna stick. Like I think that was the reason why I got so into Pistol Whip. It wasn't anything really to do. Like the gameplay's fun and stuff, but like as soon as I got like one song, I was just like, oh yeah, really this is the one. And it was just like over and over again of just playing that one song and like getting a workout from it. It really helped.
But, I mean, Power Beats VR, I could have uploaded songs into the Steam folders somewhere, and it would have calculated the actual track that I'd entered in and done a workout. And from what I've heard, it works quite well. But because I couldn't do the full width of the game, that blew that out of the water. So luckily, this Fit XR game was, the songs are good enough for me to get on with it and try it. I'm still in the 7-day trial, but they post like new workouts. Every time I've logged on, there's been a new workout that they've gone, oh, we've got a new workout. Yeah. So they're doing it regularly, and I hope that they'll change the songs around as well. So I hope that the songs won't get too stale.
Very cool.
But yeah, I've been like doing up to a 45-minute workout the other day before I got crispy, and so that's my progress so far. So that's muscle there, right there.
Okay, we'll just.
That'll be
we'll do this once a week.
This is going to be the thumbnail.
We'll do a compilation. Yeah,
there we go. There's the thumbnail right there for the video. But yeah, next time VR it'll be a little bit bigger, and then like by the end of the series or whatever, it'll be like here. Yeah. So
we'll just cut to like a year from now, and you'll just be twice the size.
I'll just be like this. I'm like, hey Vin, how's it
going? Going down to Nando's to get my chicken and
yeah.
It could be one of those people.
Eat my chicken and chips, man.
Right. Good times.
I just, not to brag or anything, humble brag, but I like getting the mango and lime on the actual chicken and then covering it in the extra hot sauce.
Right. Is that what you tell the women, or do you actually do that?
No, I do actually do that. And when I say cover, I mean like a teaspoon. But the point is, I do.
There it is.
The point is that it's always on there.
Fun side note, I used to work at Nando's when we lived in the UK. Well, when I lived in the UK. I've got personality disorder, apparently. When I lived in the UK, I used to work at Nando's. There was a guy that came in one day, and he was on a date with a girl, and he wanted to impress her. This is how sad society is in the UK. He wanted to impress her, so he ordered a bunch of hot wings for whatever reason, like the hottest that they go.
The most romantic of all the chicken items.
Exactly, because you definitely want to be, sweating and trying to like eat.
One person's got one end of the wing, the other person's got the other end of the wing.
Right, and you're all sweating and your hair's like gone mess, and you're just like, whew, like this is horrible. Like, why are we doing this? But anyway, like he ordered these hot wings, and he came up to me like a couple of minutes later, and he pulled me over to the side and was like, yeah, them hot wings? And I was like, yeah, what's up, man? It's like, yeah, can you make them like mango and lime instead and just put the hot flag in them? And I was like, are you serious? And he was like, yeah, I'm deadly serious. Like, I can't actually eat hot food, but I don't want to look like an idiot in front of this girl. I was like, yeah, no problem, man. It's like, I understand. I get it. I totally get it. We definitely spiked at least 2 of them chicken wings as the hottest, like on purpose.
No way.
We absolutely did.
Oh,
and that was,
God.
This was like 10 years ago. I apologize to that guy.
But you ruined that guy's day. Oh.
Literally the Russian roulette. I mean, if you can't be like, if you're lying on your first date about like how hot your wings are, like that's
not a good basis of a relationship. You're lying on the first date about who you are as a person. And indeed. For British people, like what Nando's heat you take, that's a pretty important part of a person. I'd say.
It dictates your personality quite a lot.
Yeah,
I don't know why, but it does. I've got so many Nando's stories. I could totally go into all of them.
We could do another Nando's podcast.
Right. I could totally do that. Like I worked there for 2.5 years, almost 3 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've
Nando's podcast. So
I've got some tales.
Comment if you want to see a Nando's podcast.
I've definitely got some tales, but yeah.
Maybe that's our thing. We'll be like video games and Nando's.
And that's fitness apps.
Yeah. And fitness apps. Well, I found my one now, so it's a pretty. I found that
the same game over and over.
I'm gonna, yeah. So next week you'll be like, "How's the app going?" It's like, it's fine. They've released some new workouts.
Yeah, and then I'll mention Eco, and then we'll talk about Nando's, and then we'll bitch about Sony and The Last of Us. This is basically the.
We found it. We found what makes us unique.
Indeed.
So we hate Sony. We love The Last of Us 1. We hate everything else. Hate The Last of Us 2. We hate the remake. Yeah, okay.
There will be a day when you finish Horizon Zero Dawn as well.
There will be a day when I thought I was going to get some crap for that. Like, you still not finished that? Like, you call yourself a gamer and you've been playing that for ages.
It's a long game, man. To be fair, and if you do everything, like, it's a good month of your life in a good way. So it's all good.
Do you know what I'm doing? It's the first time I've been enjoying the game so much that I am eking it out. Like, I don't want it to end. It's never happened before.
No, that's a good sign.
Yeah,
when you're doing that, because there's other games that do the opposite, which like I just want to screw the side quest now. I just want to go right through and finish this because it's getting boring.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I like this game, and the more I'm playing it, the more it's dropping off. So if I finish it now, that I finished on a high. But with this, it's the opposite. Like, me grinding it is, it's just they're still there, still fun, still enjoyable.
Can't be a bad thing. Can't be a bad thing.
Even the flowers, like, I was like, I'll pick up some flowers. That'd be boring. I won't enjoy it, but I'll pick up the flowers. And then there's a freaking awesome environment where it's difficult to pick up this one flower, and I've had to think about it, and I've had to go and get resources, and I was like, wow, that's really
my absolute favorite thing about all of this is the fact that you've just gone from, I need to find a fitness game where I'm punching stuff because I want to get my testosterone up and stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. And then in the next sentence, you're talking about picking flowers in Horizon Zero Dawn.
I mean, they're metal flowers. So... and you have to kill some crocodiles that are robot crocodiles.
Of course.
To pick the flower.
I suppose that does make you more manly.
That's way more manly. But yeah, you're a good point. Well, I'm a complicated guy. What can I say, Vin? There are many layers to me. I'm the proverbial Shrek of the video game world.
I love the defense that, well, they're metal flowers. That's great. That's
manly.
Indeed.
But yes, that's maybe a good place to wrap it up. That I like picking flowers and punching glowing orbs.
That's the start. Well, that's something to tell your therapist at least.
Yeah, I don't even have a VR headset. This is just what comes to me in my dreams.
You're just losing your mind, basically. But it's all good. If you want to carry on losing your mind listening to this podcast, then please continue to listen to us. But where can people find you, Chris?
At Acrylic Pixel on my Twitter and Acrylic Pixel on YouTube, I believe.
Cool. So you can find me. I am at Hillfort Games on Twitter. You can find me and some of my finger paintings there. We also do a bit of indie deving. I actually spent like 5 hours yesterday working on my indie game, so I've got some updates to put them on that. So if you're interested in that sort of stuff, then please come and follow along. Yes. Also, if you like the episode, then you can find us on any of your favorite podcast services. We're pretty much on all of them at this point, I believe, because we're on Anchor, which sort of spreads it out all over the internet, which is great. Mm-hmm. Or where you probably found this, which is on YouTube. Please give us a like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so you can know when we've got a new episode coming up.
Yes.
Or we put some highlights out or something like that. So
it tells us we're doing a good thing, so it means a lot.
Yeah. Or just ignore us, and then we know that we're terrible at it, which is also an important piece of feedback.
Moment. Yeah, they're kind of doing that at the moment, Vin. So
that's fair. That is very fair. But anyway, until next time, we appreciate you listening. We will catch you in the next episode.
Okay. Bye-bye.